If you came in here today to be a wimpy, whiny version of yourself, get over it. I dress like a firecracker because that's what I want. I want to snap us, break us, explode us open so we can be the best version of ourselves we can be right now at this time. As Pam was saying and talking about the mystics all say we are on a path of discovery. And Ernest Holmes would add, an eternal path of discovery and awakening to that place of wholeness. Now, the definition of wholeness, wholeness is not a condition. It's a state of being, of living in total unity or oneness. Total unity or oneness. With yourself, with God, with one another. It doesn't mean we like everything. I mean, we got to understand that because we won't. But it means we understand that it's all part of the one. Actually, in our Science of Mind textbook, Ernest Holmes talks about the law of wholeness. There is a law of wholeness. That God, whether we call it God, infinite intelligence, ultimate power, whatever we call, God is all there is. And guess what? There is nothing wrong with God. And if there's nothing wrong with God, and we are one with God, can you do the equation? There's nothing wrong with us. We might live a limited existence or have a limited consciousness about ourselves because we don't understand the totality of who we are. We don't understand it. We have a limited consciousness because we don't understand what reality is. But don't worry about it because I don't ever think as human beings we get the wholeness of the totality of reality because we come to this experience. In this human experience, this life of diversity, this life of polarity, so we can get closer to understanding God. We live in limitation because we focus on this physical world, which does have its imperfections. So if we put it nicely, we are perfectly imperfect. Would you agree with that? Just say it. I am perfectly imperfect. And if we can understand that everything, and I don't mean some things, everything comes to us as an opportunity to learn and grow and expand our consciousness into something more. Do you believe that? Everything comes to us that way. And we have to take more responsibility. And this is why I mean the firecracker. We have to take more responsibility about accepting things. And not, yes, we can have little teeny weeny tiny pity parties. It's okay. That's okay. We can do it to get it out of our system, find somebody safe. But we're not to live in that state. We have to take responsibility to move ourselves to the higher plane. And that's what wholeness is. That's what the law of wholeness is. Wholeness, as I said, is not a condition. It's a state of being, a consciousness, an understanding that lifts us above and beyond the physical realm, the physical condition, so we understand there's more. Whatever's going on in your life right now. And I know, trust me, there's a lot going on in, I would say, everybody's life. Everybody that I know and talk to right now, there's a lot going on that makes it not so easy. But there's something more. There's always chaos in creation. There's always confusion as we're using our creative energy. That's part of the process. So when we realize that, well, if God is whole and perfect and complete, and I am part of God, then there's something in me that is perfect, whole, and complete. You know, I'll tell you a little bit more. When we go on vacation with our daughter, you heard it. You heard it. I didn't have to say a thing. It's always an adventure. We know it. We know it. We brace ourselves. But anyway, so we went to the wonderful state of Oaxaca, Mexico. And we stayed 3 days in Oaxaca City. And I love Oaxaca City. It's filled with culture and richness and love and community and delicious food. And Santo Domingo Church, which is beautiful and has the history of the area that you could just stay all day. And the Alabrijas village, where Alabrijas is a Mexican folk art of the indigenous people. And you walk into the village and the community's there together. The older people are teaching the younger people how to carry on this folk art of fanciful, mystical creatures that bring fantasy and joy, and how they're working together. And Kirk was overwhelmed that there were so many young men dedicated to this beautiful art of painting, little painting. And he thought, how beautiful, there's a culture that honors these men, these beautiful, handsome, virile men doing their little painting of this beautiful art. And he was overwhelmed by that. We got overwhelmed a lot in this culture. And we had a beautiful family take us on a day-long cooking experience into the markets and cooking and into their home. And you can't help but feel the love of these people. We have a lot to learn. How they're teaching the children, and it's beautiful. We had such a wonderful time. We stayed in Las Golondrinas Hotel, which was an old house, and the people there were so nice, and every room was different, and it was very fun. And then our journey changed a little bit. We went from the city, Oaxaca City, we went down to Hualtuco on the coast, and we picked my daughter and Brooke picked it was called a resort. On a beautiful private bay. It was Bahia de la Luna. And it didn't say anything about getting a four-wheel drive to get there. So we didn't. We really wished we had. But we get there, and of course Kirk's driving, and there's a small dirt road. Well, we didn't know there'd been a huge storm. And this dirt road was not the 500 feet or yards that we thought. It was like miles. And we were driving down this washed out road, and I really thought we were going to die. I really did. I mean, there was straight cliff on, and Kirk's calm. We got down there, and I'll tell you what I loved is the way our family worked together, because it was scary. But we worked together, and everybody was fine, and we just said, okay, we can either be upset by this and shaken up, or we can get on. So we said, we'll get on with it. So we'd go walk out to our resort, and there was construction going on, and then we get to this quiet little peaceful bay, and the owner says, you cannot go in the bay. The currents are so bad, too dangerous, peligroso, you cannot go in. And we're going, and then we look, and we didn't choose one place because there were 60 stairs getting up to the place we were staying. This place had 62 stairs. So we walk in, and there's netting over the beds, and the living area, which there was no couch, there was a couple of hammocks, there were bats everywhere. And I got on my knees, and I just said, I hope these are insect-eating bats and not blood-sucking bats. Well, we decided on this trip, there was Kirk and myself and Deanna and Brooke and their two boys, 12 and 15. The only two that didn't have some sort of meltdown were Kirk and the 15-year-old, so good. But we didn't keep our meltdowns long, but they were beautiful, and we made the best of it. So I'll tell you the two amazing experiences for me. The first afternoon I went, and I thought, well, okay. So I sat on this rock, and it was late afternoon. I saw the moon. And it was speaking to me, and it gave me some really powerful, beautiful messages, but then the moon disappeared. And when I tried to share, everybody thought I was crazy. There is no moon. Yes, there is a moon. You can't see it. But anyway, it was beautiful. And then the next morning, they said it was a little calmer to go in the water, so I went in the water, got sucked in by a current, and I swear I would have died, but my daughter and Brooke saved me, and I said, I'm not going in the water again. So I went to see the curandero there, the healer. And you're in this little outside hut, and she's a curandero, but it says massage. It is not massage. But she's throwing things on me and doing things, and worked on me for quite a long time. It was supposed to be an hour, but it was much longer than that. And then when I leave, she goes, corazon. And so then I thought I had heart problems. So I was really worried. So I went back the next day, and I said, curandero, and she smiled that I recognized her as a curandero and not a massage therapist. I said, peligroso? Corazon peligroso? Because I don't know Spanish. And she said, no. She said, this is for you and me. I went, oh, it's the thoughts up here that are causing this here. And she goes like this. And then she said, this is for you too. Dios, ángeles. Give it to God, give it to the angels, but get over it. So I said, fine. And that day she worked on me twice as long. So, boiling it down, in every experience, life is trying to teach us how to be the best versions of ourselves. The very best versions of ourselves. So when we look at this world wholeness, I know we can say I'm whole, perfect, and complete. Try that. Oh, come on. I dressed as a firecracker so there'd be a little power in your words. Say it again. Okay, well, what we've learned about wholeness is many of us have a misguided vision of wholeness and think it's everything we want and nothing that we don't want, right? But that's not what wholeness is. It's about the entire spectrum. In the Science of Our Mind magazine for July, and I would have it here, but I took it with me on my trip, and it's sopping wet and all wrinkly. But Dennis Merritt Jones, Dr. Dennis Merritt Jones, writes an article about how an enchilada can teach you about wholeness. Well, how perfect is that? Because I just got back from Mexico. It was just perfect. And so you read it, and he talks about, he went into a Mexican restaurant, and he was just captivated by the tasty versions of enchiladas they had, and the last one was the whole enchilada. And he said, well, I want the whole enchilada. So when the waitress came, he said, I'd like the whole enchilada, but please hold the cilantro, the pico de gallo, and the red chili peppers. And the waitress looked at him and said, well, then that's not the whole enchilada. That's the same with us. If we can't accept all parts of ourselves, then we're not living a whole and expansive life. You know, I went to our systematic theologian because I respect his wisdom and his depth of study. And, you know, I go to him for wise counsel, and I asked him, well, talk to me about wholeness. And he said, well, Sandy, it's like doing the hokey pokey. You're supposed to laugh on that because it was pretty funny. I went, the hokey pokey, we did that in kindergarten. And he said, yes, you know, you can put your arm in, you can put your arm out, but you have to turn around and keep putting more and more and more and more of yourself into this thing called life until what? Our whole self is in. And I looked it up. I looked up some of the history of the hokey pokey. And it actually, people fought over the rights to the hokey pokey. There were many different people who claimed to be authors of it, but it kind of boiled down to, it started out in Britain from an ice cream man, you know. But then it was sung to British soldiers, this song and dance, Canadian soldiers, American soldiers, as a song of transformation. You put your whole self in, and then you turn yourself about. Change our consciousness, spiral upward. It's about transformation and consciousness. You know, Ernest Holmes said, he had this, I love this, where is it? No, that's not it. Maybe I can't find it. But it's really good. Oh, let us seek wholeness above all else. That was really hard to remember. But I knew I liked it. It said, we often think that what we require is more money, more friends, more physical healing, and then I'll be whole. Right? Don't we? He goes on to say, we seek fragments when the whole is at hand. In this moment, we have every single thing we need for wholeness right now. The universe is a perfect, undivided whole. And healing can only take place when we are unified with it, when we harmonize with it, when we own it and we claim it. Ernest Holmes went on to say there's only one thing that brings complete wholeness, and that's love. Love is the wholeness we're looking for. There's a Turkish-British author, novelist, public speaker, and her name is Elif Shafar, I believe. And she said, if you are not transformed by love, then you're not loving enough. That, to me, is the whole enchilada. When we can truly hug people, as I did with these beautiful Oaxacan people, when we can hug people and feel transformed and expanded by that love, that is the wholeness we're looking for. That's what we can do. So my invitation to us is to wake up in the morning and simply say, how can I love myself more? How can I love others more? And how can I love God more? Now, loving others more yesterday, since I was a little tired and cranky, was not answering my phone. So, I mean, it doesn't mean we have to always be right there and present and available to everyone. But the words of Jesus, how simple they were. Love God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. And in Greek, all means whole. So love God with your whole self. And then Jesus went on to say, love one another, and I'll add, with our whole self. So, how do we measure how well we're loving, how whole we are? Well, again, a simple question. Are you putting things together or tearing them apart? If you're putting things together, we can measure our life in that quantity of love. So closing today, I'm simply going to ask you to repeat one thing for me. Maybe one thing. I might change my mind in a minute, but right now I can just say one thing. I want you to think about life. Think about your life right now. And if you've got your toe in the water, you're here, I want you to have the courage to be all in. I want you to have the courage to be all in, to love completely, even though you may get hurt. We know that one. To dance, even though somebody might be watching. To sing, although people are here. Just to put your whole self in and love yourselves as the perfectly imperfect being that you are. So all I'm going to ask you to do is say, I'm all in. I'm all in. I'm really in. I'm really in. I give myself to life. I give myself to love. And then look to the person next to you and just say, and I give myself to you, and you, and you, and you. Okay, so we're in. I've got it. I bless you. I support you on this journey together. I love you and all your perfect imperfections. I love you just the way you are, and I love you as we all are getting better. I love and support each one of us on this journey. Celebrate. Celebrate this life. Celebrate it. Have fun and love as much as you can. And so it is. Thank you. Thank you.